Exactly. And this isn't, your typical deep dive based on broad academic research. We're actually exploring this whole idea through the incredibly detailed lens of one single individual's account.
Right, their own observations, their experiments, all while navigating what they describe as a pretty unique and challenging situation.
Yeah, quite the situation.
So our mission today, to really dig into this unique perspective, we want to pull out the key insights, fascinating little details about how information is supposedly transmitted in an organization.
And maybe more interestingly, the very unconventional ways that one person is trying to fight back against that control.
So let's start there. How does the source actually define information asymmetry in their context?
Well, they frame it as a really fundamental tool, something an organization uses basically to control its own efforts.
Okay, so like a deliberate strategy.
Pretty much. It's described as this strict hierarchy for how information gets distributed. The idea is people right at the top, you can go fast to get all of it.
Yeah.
Well, the further down the ladder you go, the less you get it, the later you get it. If you even get it at all. That's the point.
The source actually uses some pretty strong language, right? They say this asymmetry is a basic tool for functioning for what they explicitly call a criminal organization.
Yes, and specifically, they say it's designed to keep the agents in the dark. The thinking seems to be to let these ground level operatives know.
The easier they are to manage, maybe.
That seems to be the implication now. More control.
And they give a really striking example of this.
They do. The source alleges that they're good agents. The people actually out there doing things on the ground. They're deliberately kept unaware of really tricky stuff.
Like what?
Like the fact that the geoindex, basically a map of specific locations relative to their operation, was never captured 9 months ago.
Captured and decoded and published online.
Exactly. Published online. And the really crucial part, according to the source, is that this public index could potentially expose the agent's own address.
Wow. So the claim is the network knows this potentially dangerous info is public, but deliberately hides it from the very agents who might be affected.
That's precisely the allegation.
Right.
Hiding information that could directly impact the agent's safety. They describe themselves as facing this huge network of companies related to all sorts of millions of people, trillions of dollars, even access to military infrastructure in other countries.
That's a massive scale.
And against all that, the source says you have basically a lone software engineer with no resources.
So from their perspective, a head-on confrontation is just impossible.
Which is why they argue any effective counter strategy has to be asymmetrical. Targeted situations. Situations designed to expose the ground agents to the truth.
The truth with their own network is supposedly hiding from the
Exactly. It's all about trying to puncture that information flow. Get the information directly to the agents, bypassing the hacker.
And the source talks about trying different versions of this, right? Like iterating the idea.
Yes, like software development. Refining the approach. Version 1 involves printed signs on vehicles.
Okay, tell us about that.
They describe parking their armored SUV right near the edge of their driveway. With printed paper signs with a big like 5,000. Pretty direct message to each and any way.
And did they observe any reaction to this?
They didn't recount one specific incident they found coming. They saw a woman approach with a baby, which sidebar is apparently a well-known technique that Edward uses.
Okay.
What this woman was allegedly trying to do was called address triangulation. It's a way to try and pinpoint the device's location, like a phone or a computer, inside a house by measuring how the Wi-Fi signal strength drops off as you walk away from the building, usually perpendicular.
Got it. So what happened with the woman and the sign?
Well, the source said she saw the sign on the car window, laughed initially, but then seemed to actually read it and register the words. And then instead of walking the full distance to get into the triangulation that may have required over 250 feet, she apparently turned around after only about 30 feet and just abandoned the attempt.
And the source connects that directly
that this kind of en mac egress tracking attempt was happening. Allegedly, hundreds of times per day, according to the size.
Hundreds of times. That's not.
It does. And they claim that after this sign experiment, it either became impossible or just stopped happening.
Interesting. There's also that odd detail about someone being killed today.
Right. Described as the HOA president, which is the mayor of what the source calls the synthetic community. Again, strong word.
What is she supposed to do?
The source claims this person took pictures of her distribution. Even the signs didn't change.
And the sign was published like this.
Yeah, just figure out the purpose behind photographing the same genetic The term synthetic community itself is tricky. The source doesn't fully define it, but it implies some kind of control or artificial.
Okay, so now version 1, we're looking at version 2.
Version 2 is all setting it up. For anyone involved in studying surveillance or
So relevant, maybe almost compelled to check it out.
that seems to be the thinking. Yeah, keep the curiosity enough.
And this is what it says fundamentally in test, right? Analytics.
Exactly. This is where it gets quite analytical. They describe using cameras aimed at the vehicle and somehow integrating this with Google Analytics